whole thing. But anyhow, we went out yesterday on a Bigfoot investigation. And the grass was so high and it was so thick, we couldn't even get in. So we said, later. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about Mothman, all right? Okay. There's some reading I'm going to have to do here. Okay, starting on November 15th, 1966, the people of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, an otherwise quiet town along the Ohio River, began seeing something strange in their community. That night was the first widely reported sighting of a creature known as the Mothman, described as a flying man with 10-foot wings, 7 feet tall with large eyes. The sighting started the town's belief in the creature. 2 young couples were out for a drive late at night when they saw the creature. Terrified, they left the scene and reportedly were chased by speeds of 100 miles an hour. So they said they was actually going down a road at 100 miles an hour, and this thing was chasing them at 100 miles an hour. So you know how fast that was. Okay, from here, many then began to report the sightings of Mothman as well as other extraordinary phenomena, such as UFOs and even men in black. Okay, you ever hear Men in Black, anybody? Okay. The belief in this, the Mothman became important to these people as they began to blame bad happenings from disappearing dogs all the way up to the collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967. 67, creature. However, like Bigfoot and other cryptids, belief in Mothman defied any animal and we have ever documented. In the presence of some of the other precognition and Panasonic abilities brings the creatures even further into the reality we know. Okay, now, Chicago. How many of you ever heard about the Mothman up in Chicago? Okay. Okay, Chicago may have, let me read this and then we'll talk about that for a minute. Chicago may have its own resident Mothman haunting the area. Since 2011, witness accounts of a human-like figure flying around town have been pouring in. Many of the witnesses reported seeing a flying man-like creature with glowing red eyes, giving them a sense of dread when they saw it. The sightings around Chicago may have mainly occurred at night and around bodies of water. Although many of the media reports of the sightings have been treated by journalists with skepticism, the sightings of the Chicago Mothman keep coming in. One of the strangest Chicago sightings was a man who witnessed a human-like figure perched on top of Will's Tower. It was daylight when the man allegedly watched the figure jump off the skyscraper and fly away. Now, when you're doing research like this, okay, you got to be able to prove what you're doing. So we got confidentiality, all right? But a lot of times, you can talk to the people with the confidentiality and tell them Playboy or somebody else is there would like to talk to them to put an article in the paper. They won't use their name, but they want to talk to them. So anyhow, Lonnie Strickler, Monsters and something else. He got a website. That's who's doing this. 3 different people writing articles came and asked him to talk to witnesses, and he said he didn't have any. Nobody would talk to him. So if you can't talk to a witness, you can't prove one way or another if something's really happening. And we call that the Stan Gordon syndrome. You can't talk to somebody. And another thing was, there's never been one police report on Mothman in Chicago as of last year. Not one. And there's supposed to be about 150 sightings. So I don't really know how, that goes over. So, okay, physical description. He's a beautiful looking thing, ain't he? Those who saw Mothman claim he was large, gray, humanoid type creature with massive wings. He is thought to stand about 5 to 7 feet tall with a 10-foot wingspan. Mothman's head is described as being oddly shaped, sitting close to his body. Some people describe him as being headless, with only 2 bright eyes protruding above the torso. Additionally, this bright red glowing light glowing eyes are said to be extremely large. Mothman is also capable of incredible flying capabilities. He was able to keep up with a vehicle at 100 miles an hour without flapping his wings. Now remember that, without flapping his wings. All right. It's also been noted the creature never harmed a human being during its encounter. This has caused many believers to think Mothman means no harm, but instead tries to warn people of impending danger with its presence. So we'll get into that later on. Okay, so now I'm going to read here for a couple minutes because this is the whole story and we'll go over it. Okay, on November the 12th, 1996, in Clendenin, West Virginia, a group of grave diggers working in a cemetery spotted something strange. They glanced up from their work as something huge soared over their heads. It was a massive figure that was moving rapidly from tree to tree. The grave diggers would later describe this thing as a brown human being. Okay, then on November the 15th, 3 days later, is when Mothman hit Point Pleasant. Anybody ever been down to Point Pleasant? Okay. During the Mothman Festival? Okay. Places like ungodly down there. Okay, on November 15th, 1966, Roger Scarberry, a resident of town, was heading to town via the McClintic Wildlife Management Area. What is a nature reserve 7 miles outside of Point Pleasant. Along with his wife Linda, cousin Lonnie Button, and friends Steve and Mary Millette, they discovered something quite unusual. At the home of the old West Virginia Ordnance Works, a hidden-away TNT lab for the Second World War. The McClintic area has become a location for youth of the time to hang out, away from the public. We know what goes on there. The car pulled up to an abrupt stop and noticed there were two glowing red eyes at the gate, lights that they have never seen there previously. As the group looked at the lights, they started to move towards the car lights. They were not but glowing eyes of the creature. Standing 7 feet tall, at least with massive wings on its back, it stood ready. The car decided to take the right course of action, started to move at a rapid pace, but the creature took flight after those in the car. Even at 100 miles an hour, they could not outdo this beast. They kept pace without even breaking a sweat. As they reached the Mason County Courthouse, it took off and flew into the night. This was, as the records show, the first sighting is what is known as the Mothman. Okay, racing back to town to inform anyone, of what they had seen. They called them kids. I don't know why they're all growing up. Ran into Deputy Mellard Halstead. Halstead knew the kids from their youth, so he could vouch for their veracity and was happy to listen to what they had to say on the matter. He took their story seriously and split them up and talked to each one individually so he could verify the story from each of them. Okay, any of you know anything about police work? What? When you interview people, what do you do?
Intimidate them and try to get information from them.
Okay, you don't talk to them together. You talk to them separately. So you can see what they got to say. Also, I'm an ex-police chief. Don't make me look bad now. Because I said that P word. Yeah. So each witness told the same story. And the deputy could see these kids were not lying and they were not pulling a hoax. The fear in the kids was simply too genuine. Setting out with that, the kids went back to the old TNT factory to look and see if they could ascertain just what might have caused such a spook as you might imagine. They found nothing. As word spread around town, rumors were rife as to what had actually been discovered. As the local people armed themselves and went hunting for this incredible creature, it was further away than the beast would ever be found again. And that's one of the problems. Even with Bigfoot, people see a Bigfoot and everybody goes running and gets their gun. So you got 20 people out in the woods packing, half of them's drunk, and you got a bigger problem there than Bigfoot. And it's the same thing here. You've got people running around with guns, don't know what they're doing and who they're going to shoot. So, somebody. That night, Marcella Bennett was visiting the Thomas family who lived quite close to the old TNT area. As she approached the car to get in, she spotted a massive humanoid creature with hulking wings and red eyes emerge from the ground. Paralyzed with fear, she wanted to protect her infant child Tina from the creature. She lay there petrified, staring right into the eyes of the Mothman. Eventually breaking free from his gaze, she ran back inside with her daughter and called the police as well as other witnesses. She also claimed the Mothman came and peeked through the window of her home before setting off to leave long before the police did arrive. But you all remember last week I said the same thing about Bigfoot would do that. He likes to peek in a house to see what's going on. So actually he's a peeping Tom also. However, as time went on, more and more people appeared with a story about Mothman. It did not take long, but more or less the entire community was soon a believer that they were under attack by something otherworldly, something that completely defied any previous knowledge of the creatures in existence. Okay, so now to keep on going with this, over the next year, many locals bore witness to its fame. Sketch artists slowly but surely put together a concept art of what it must look like in comparison to what was being relayed. The one constant was its incredible red eyes. The main problem, though, was no one could determine what the face looked like. The eyes seemed to be such a drawing factor, most could never truly understand what the face looked like. It was simply too captivating. The other strange element with Mothman was it could fly without having to create force with its wings. Listen to this. It would just take off as if it were propelled by an engine. Remember that. While experts would tell people it was nothing more than a sandhill crane, a creature that is nearly the size of a man with massive wingspan and reddish eyes that had gotten out of the comfort zone. Following the Silver Bridge collapse on December 15th, 1969, sightings of the Mothman just seemed to stop. No more sightings have been reported there, for many believe that it has something to do with the bridge and disaster that has been drawn to the town. There was another sighting in 2016 down there. Okay, so now we go from 1967 to the Mothman Prophecy. How many of you read the book, The Mothman Prophecies? All right, which was written in 75. So you got 67 to 75. Not really that much happened there, okay? So in 75, John Keel wrote a book relating his accounts of his investigation of alleged sightings of a large winged creature known as the Mothman in the vicinity of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, between 66 and 67. It combines these accounts with his theories about UFOs and various supernatural phenomena, ultimately connecting them to the collapse of the Silver Bridge across the Ohio River on December 15, 1967. An official investigation in 1971 determined the bridge collapse was caused by the stress corrosion cracking in an eye bar in the suspension chain. Okay, how many of you heard of John Keel? All right. Keel, he came down to West Virginia, and it was raining. And he got out of his car, and his car broke down. He knocked on the door. And a lady come to answer the door. She was in her nightgown. And he had a black suit on with a tie. And I guess back then, nobody down in that area knew what the hell a suit was. And she said, "You got to talk to my husband." She thought he was the devil. And the husband came and told him to get out there with nothing to do with him. Well, those were two of the people that got killed on the Silver Bridge. So, you know, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so that was in 75. Then in 2002, the Mothman Prophecies movie was made, starring Richard Gere and Laura Lindsay. It was about the researcher in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Okay, so this is really what got the thing going again with Mothman, this movie. So the next thing we'll talk about is the Mothman Museum. How many of you have been in the Mothman Museum? Okay. Left run by Jeff Walmsley. It is next to the Mothman statue. It has all kinds of Mothman stuff like t-shirts, hoodies, books, and a lot of other stuff. Then you got the Mothman Festival. If you get a chance, go down there. It is one of the most, I don't know what you would call it. You can't even walk. There's so many people there. They had the mountain monsters. How many of you ever heard of the mountain monsters? Something wrong with them. They're not playing with a full deck. Anyhow, they were down there and they was signing autographs. It was 4 blocks long and they was charging $50 an autograph. So you know how much money they made that day? Okay? Anyhow, so Jeff Walmsley of the Mothman Museum and Carolyn Harris of the Mothman Diner started the Mothman Festival in response to the public interest and awareness of the Mothman after the movie on Mothman. The first festival was held on November 16, 2002. Today, the festival is held on the third weekend in September. It is estimated that the average attendance for the festival is between 10 to 12,000 people. That's from Friday to Sunday. That's a lot of people in that small town. The festival has guest speakers, vendors, games, pancake eating contests, terrorize, many other attractions. I spoke down there 3 times. I spoke down, I think, in 2011, no, 2012, 13, and 15. Now, here's the Mothman statue. The Mothman statue is a 12-foot metallic attraction located on 201 4th Street, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The Mothman statue was erected in 2003 and unveiled to the world on the second Mothman Festival. If you are planning a trip to see the Mothman statue, the best time to go is on the Mothman Festival, which held the third week of September. If you can see, Mothman has his arms out like this on this thing here. And a lot of people go down there, especially young ladies, and they like to climb up there and lay there and have their picture taken. And then they see the police coming, they go, oh my God, I better get out of here. And the police don't say a word to you. They'll actually help you up, get up there to take the picture. And which is really cool. The police are really cool during that time. Okay, what is the possible explanations of Mothman? Anybody have any ideas? No? All right. The most common is the explanation people believe to go with is most people like to believe it's merely a case of fear plus mistaken identity equals a big bad creature. Well, a barn owl could be a good choice because it has more or less all the attributes of the real thing. It matches the wingspan, the eyes which appear to be mounted on a headless torso, freaky, and reflection that seems to give off when something reflects on them, such as a flashlight or a headlight. They also make a terrifying screeching sound. Like I said the last time, if any of these words are spelled wrong, probably that night I was drinking a couple of Coors Banquets. So I just got my grammar checking thing the other day. So I typed some of this up before that. You know how that goes. Okay, another popular connection is the Thunderbird. They could swoop down and carry away a man without any problems, as these giant creatures dominated the skies and left man petrified. Most of the representations that you can find of the Thunderbird will give you a good idea of what many speak about when they mention the Mothman. This helps validate claims the Mothman appeared before the 1996 story came into a popular lexicon. Okay, down in West Bygod, Virginia, there's a story, I think it was back in the 1950s or whatever, that a Thunderbird actually come down and swooped up and picked up a kid and took the kid and never found the kid. It was in the newspaper. So, I don't know. You can't believe everything you read, but it was in a couple of newspapers. I say maybe something did happen there. I don't know. When you get involved in this kind of work, man, it's you shake your head a lot and drink a beer and just say, what the hell? Okay. Less likely, of course, is that of an alien. Okay. The majority of high volumes of UFO spottings that come to the same region with everything from weird energy fields or glowing orbs and unnatural animal behavior and accounting for something quite normal being the case for the Mothman being spotted. Apparently, Point Pleasant was regularly visited by the men in black who would ask aggressive questions and threaten townspeople. Therefore, the connection began to stick, that perhaps the local sighting of the Mothman was not a giant owl or a thunderbird, but something that comes from entirely another planet. So you had Denenberger. Anybody hear of Denenberger? He was driving down 70, and a UFO landed in front of him. It was Ingrid White, and they say that Ingrid White was actually a man in black, and they think he had something to do with Mothman. But Ingrid took Denenberger up to his planet, and they had a good time up there together, I understand. And a lot of the men in black would come down now. One time, he walked into a restaurant, one of them walked into a restaurant and said he wanted something to eat. And they said, well, what would you like to have? He said, food. And they said, what? He said, food. Well, what kind of food? Food. And they had explained to him what everything was. Then they gave him a fork and a knife, and he didn't know what to do with it. Another one, they gave him Jell-O, and he picked it up like he was going to drink it. He didn't know what he was doing. So it's kind of interesting when you read the book. Some good stories in there. Okay, a divine angel, a divine being or angel. I couldn't find no angel pictures. They took them off the computer, I think. So there's no picture there. But anyhow, just as unlikely as an alien, though, be divine, an angel. Many claim that it could have been an angel given a number of disasters that took place in the region after the original Mothman sightings. John Keel, who investigated the Mothman, claims that he was subject to phone calls from someone known as Ingrid Cole, who seemed capable of using telepathy and who had many true premonitions, such as a plane crash with the exact number of dead beings accurate. Could there be something a little bit more divine in the story here? A mutant. All right. A more likely case is that of a mutant. Given that the Mothman seemingly comes from an old musician's location, which was a bird sanctuary before all of this, could be that the creature is merely an animal that has reached a scary phase of mutation. With all the weird chemicals in the area and the mixing that is going on, along with the abandonment and lack of maintenance, it's not impossible to think that this may have happened. Some estimate that the bird may have been a sandhill crane which got lost and eventually mutated into something else. And that's true. I mean, you got animals out there, they be doing radioactive stuff and that, and they could change. I mean, but then again, the Mothman was too cool, though. I mean, he didn't look like no mutant. I mean, he was cool. He was, had his eyes red, man. He was skinning and grinning around town, and everybody, oh my God, there he is. There's the Mothman. Sweet Jesus. Now, this is interesting here. In the February 2014 issue of Soldiers of Fortune magazine, ran an incredibly thin article claiming that the Mothman was a Green Beret, titled UFO Mystery Solved. Mothman were actually Green Berets. Author Howard Hutchinson theorized that a 7-foot red-eyed creature being spotted around Point Pleasant, West Virginia from November 15, 1966 to December 15, 1967, was a specifically trained USO soldier wearing temporary glow-in-the-dark reflective paint practicing halo, high-altitude, low-opening parachute maneuvers. Unfortunately, the article lacked any evidence to support the claim. But again, you hear where they say that they went straight up. They didn't use their wings. It was like went straight up in the air. All right. So could it have been right? I don't know. What?
I was just thinking it sounds more like UFO technology.
Yeah. A lot of times when you get we did an investigation on there was a gargoyle in Butler County, PA, and he did the same thing. His wings didn't move; he just shot straight up in the air, and we heard this 3 or 4 times with him. But they're saying that this is what a lot of people think this really was a military guy. But Camp Conley, you know where Camp Conley is? That's down there, and they said that was actually a paranormal. They were doing a lot of paranormal research back there in the 60s. So Okay, then you got, this is the best one here. A vengeful curse. How many of you ever heard of Chief Cornstalk? Okay. Okay. Others believe Mothman is the embodiment of a 200-year-old curse. The curse can be traced back to the death of Chief Cornstalk and several of his tribesmen. Chief Cornstalk wanted peace with the American colonists who were trying to occupy the land of 7 different Native American nations. Unfortunately, there were many on both sides opposed the idea. So again, we came and took all their land. We moved them over 7 mountain ranges, put them on Alcatraz, and we kicked them off Alcatraz, brought them back. On November 7, 1777, Chief Cornstalk traveled to a fort in the area called Point Pleasant and tried to engage in peace talks with the colonists to prevent fighting. He insisted the peace was necessary because the British were trying to convince other nations to join with them and oppose the colonists, and that he and his tribe stood in their way. Fearful, the colonists took him and his companions prisoner and detained them inside the fort. Chief Cornstalk was considered to be a skilled fighter and military genius who was greatly respected by both sides. By detaining him, the colonists hoped they could prevent the Native Americans from attacking. 2 days later, on November 9, 1777, Chief Cornstalk's son, I don't know how you pronounce his name, visited the fort to see his father, and he was also detained. So now they come to try to make peace, and we put him in prison. Okay? What? Okay. Okay. Oh, boy. Okay, on November the 10th, gunfire was heard near the Quano River. When soldiers from the fort went to investigate, they found that 2 men who had left to hunt deer had been ambushed by the Native Americans. One was dead. In range, the soldiers burst into the quarters of Chief Cornstalk and his companions and brutally murdered them as revenge. All right? So as he lay laying on the ground, Chief Cornstalk is said to have uttered a curse on the land in which he died. He spoke the following words: "I was the borderman's friend. Many times I have saved him and his people from harm. I never warred with you, but only to protect our wigwams and lands. I refused to join your pale-faced enemies with the red coats. I came to your fort as a friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my side my young son. For this may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon your land. May it be blighted by nature. May it be blighted in its hopes. May the strength of the people be paralyzed by the stain of our blood." Strange events occurred later in history, such as a lightning bolt that twice destroyed a monument erected in honor of the colonists who fought in the Ohio River Valley. So here you go. You got a monument and a lightning strikes it. I mean, that's kind of weird, don't you think? Okay. When the Mothman appeared in Point Pleasant, he was part of the curse of Chief Cornstalk. Okay. Is there any questions so far? I can't be that good. Or you don't understand what the hell I'm saying, either one of the two. Okay. Supernatural or extraterrestrial theories. Theories about the Mothman verge into the supernatural, suggesting more than merely origins for this cryptid legend. Some assert that the creature may exhibit paranormal, here's a misspelled word, capabilities like precognition, and may be harboring of doom. During the Mothman's most notable appearance in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, there was a surge in reports of UFOs and eerie presence of men in black, suggesting a possibility of extraterrestrial connection. So when they can't do anything else, they always say it's extraterrestrial. All right? Another explanation is quite simple. The people who witnessed it seeing wrong. They might seem oversimply, but human perception has its limitations. From a mysterious figure to glowing eyes and crazy height, it's easy to think that this would be real. The problem is that they only had their own eyes to reply on, their eyes which were now terrified due to what was supposed to be in front of them. It is hard to believe that people who witnessed such a creature with no proof have created a conflict of interest in their minds and formed a new reality yet. People may be lying. A lot of people lie. When you get into this field, you hear lies every day. Oh, I seen a Bigfoot. Or I just heard where a lady told me today that Bigfoot, they had a big thing up at Cook Forest over the weekend. And she said that Bigfoot put his hand on her car and jumped over her car. Really? She has seen 7 Bigfoot so far. 7. Hello? I ain't seen any. 50 years. She sees 7 in 6 months. But then again, there's another thing with that, so we can get into that later. Okay, so people may just lie. And they do that not out of lying. They look for attention. Oh yeah, hell, I seen Mothman. Yeah, I'm afraid of him. I'll go down and kick his rear end. Yeah, oh yeah, really. How many of you ever went out hunting Bigfoot or anything? Anybody? You know, again, I've never seen a Bigfoot in 50 years. And I think if I would, probably every orifice on my body would be wet. Believe me. I mean, when you hear these things, you look up at it like that, and you see a big hairy ass thing looking down at you. No, thank you. I'd rather sit in my house and investigate from there. Much like other natural horrors that stuck around for a long time, such as the Loch Ness Monster. Now, they allegedly said they got new pictures of the Loch Ness Monster they took a couple months ago. There's a good chance that a local myth thought up and taken further. One of the major associates of John Kill in the past, for example, was Gary Barker. Barker was a paranormal expert who found great ways to make money from exploitation of paranoia. Barker got his own library down in West Virginia, and he was arrested a few times for lying, and he was one of the good ones. The best explanation for Mothman, though, is that nobody has a clue what it is. All right, nobody knows what it is. It's like Bigfoot. Nobody knows what Bigfoot is. Okay, it's all speculation. Same here, it's all speculation. It's just there as a myth that has no explanation at all. Not everything has a blanket explanation or solid confusion that 100% makes sense and has no way to refute it or argue against it. This makes it harder for people to appreciate fully what the idea of Mothman may be, as there are no one logical explanation that fills in all blanks. So, again, he was there for 1 year. Okay, they seen him the first night, then he made a couple other tours around. Then where did he go after that? See, this is the problem with cryptids. Where did they go? Where did they come from and where did they go? Where did he come from? And where did he go? Okay? They didn't see him for maybe 3 or 4 months. Okay? And then all of a sudden the bridge went down. And then he was sitting on top of the bridge when the bridge went down. So, oh my God, it was him. So where was he at in between there? Okay. The last and less likely explanation is that it is all true, of course. Let's say that it does exist for a minute and has some kind of presence around disasters, giving the number of people who came forward, even with our doubts about what they've seen, is it really an impossibility that the Mothman is real? I believe it's real. I don't know what it is. Like I say, I've been involved investigating this stuff for 50 years now. And I think when I was a cop, I was a pretty good investigator. So they say. I don't know. But, you know, who, what, when, why, how, and why. That's how I do all my stuff. And a lot of this stuff, it fits right into the realm. But you can't say what it is. Okay, where do we have Mothman sightings at? All right. Okay. Surprisingly, the first sighting of Mothman may be traced back 40 years before he appeared in Point Pleasant. The beginning of the 1926 opened with an appearance of the strange creature in southeastern China. The locals described this creature as a man dragon that could frequently be seen hovering over the whatever it is dam. On July 19, 1926, the dam collapsed, releasing nearly 40 million gallons of water into the surrounding farms in the valley. The death toll is estimated to be well over 15,000, though many of the records of disaster has been destroyed. So here we go again. He was there before it happened, like he was actually warning them that something was going to happen. Or she. We don't know if it's a man or a woman. So we say he, though. It could have been a she. Okay, Silver Bridge. On December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour traffic. In the hours before the collapse, even during the event, many witnesses claimed to have seen the Mothman atop the bridge. The collapse was devastating. 46 people lost their lives as their cars plunged into the river below. The Mothman was never seen again in Point Pleasant after that. But they seen him on Route 2 outside of Point Pleasant. And a lot of people were actually having dreams of Christmas presents floating on the water and stuff like that. And they actually said it before this happened. And this is another one of the problems. Like we tell people, say, for example, you have a dream or you're thinking about something like maybe something's going to blow up. Tell it to somebody and have them write it down and date it. Then if it happens, you have proof. Because if you say after it happened, well, I knew that the other day, I seen it. Nobody's going to believe you. But if you write it down before it happened and you got proof of that, then they got to listen to you. All right? Okay, the Frindberg Mine. On the morning of September the 10th, 1978, a group of miners were heading for work in Freiburg, Germany, when they were confronted by a strange man in a trench coat. You got to watch them guys. When they got closer, they realized that it was not a man, but a strange creature with huge wings. It appeared to have no head, but had large red glowing eyes in what seemed to be the chest. They stood in the entrance of the mine staring at the creature until it let out a terrifying scream and ran away from the mine. An hour later, the mine collapsed. So in other words, it seen these people and told them not to go in the mine. They didn't go in because they scared them. So again, it's, collapse. Chernobyl, you all heard of Chernobyl, all right? Throughout the year of 1985, many scientists, workers, and citizens who lived near the power plant in Chernobyl, Ukraine, saw a large bird-like feature with the body of a man flying around the nuclear plant. They claimed that this terrifying creature had red glowing eyes. On April 26, 1986, the creature was spotted before a huge explosion that became one of the most famous nuclear accidents in history. Witnesses also saw the flying creature through the smoke and wreckage of the horrifying event. So again, it's here to warn them. The Twin Towers. Several days before the terrible attack on September 11, 2001, several people saw a strange flying creature near the Twin Towers. Those who saw the attack reported that the same creature was flying parallel to the second plane as it hit the tower. Again, if they had wrote this down before, you could believe it. I also teach a conspiracy class. So a lot of this stuff I'm saying here, I use something totally different when I'm teaching a conspiracy class. All right. Okay, the I-35 bridge collapse. At the end of June 2007, reports of Mothman began surfacing in Minnesota. The reports were concentrated in Minneapolis, the surrounding areas, and the I-35 bridge itself. After a month of sightings, the bridge collapsed on August 1st, 2007. The collapse was devastating, killing 13 people and injuring 145 more. So, again, if this is all true, this thing is actually trying to save lives. But people are not listening, or they don't know. You don't know what's going to happen and where at. Swine flu. Okay, how many of you heard of swine flu? They say it's coming back. All right. And bird flu coming back. And some other kind of flu coming back. So residents in La Junta, Mexico began seeing a large black red-eyed creature in 2009. The creature stalked the town just before the swine flu outbreak that devastated the area. Several witnesses reported being terrified by it screaming, and one was even chased by the creature. Local authorities searched for evidence of the creature, but there was none ever found. Okay, how do you pronounce that? Fuch? Who? That's it, yeah, that's it. So, okay, 2 witnesses were out there to Japan's power plant in March 2011 when they heard a loud screech. They turned back to see the creature sitting on top of the plant. It suddenly unfurled its wings and began to fly towards them. They were horrified by a pair of red glowing eyes that were looking right at them, but the creature soon disappeared. Shortly after the creature appeared to them, the power plant was devastated by an earthquake, and a nearby plant they walked by exploded. So again, saving people. Then you have other in Ohio. Here we are. Close to West Virginia's borders, there have been multiple accounts of Mothman sightings. One notable location is the town of Chillicothe. Any of you guys ever been to Chillicothe? That's supposed to be a Bigfoot haven up in there. They see him every day in that area out here. I don't know. Depends on who you talk to. One notable location, where residents reported seeing a large winged entity with glowing red eyes. Further north in Chicago, a series of sightings in 1,017 reunited public intrigue. I mean, they've seen 1,000 Bigfoot up there. I mean, Mothman up there, and not one police report. I don't understand that. So, but again, I don't know. I mean, maybe they got a sign up. Lonnie, here I am. Come and get me. I don't want the police involved. They might put me in jail. Could you picture that? The Mothman in jail? Okay, witness reported a flying humanoid around Lake Michigan, come to speculate about the possibility of a migration route for the creature. Additionally, there has been numerous sightings in Chicago and the surrounding areas alone. They say most of the sightings actually happen at the Chicago airport, O'Hare Airport. They'll see Mothman at the airport. Now, if I'm from New Mexico and I'm at the Chicago airport, and I see Mothman, I ain't going back there. No, I'm not going back. But again, who's seen it for real? Did they really see it, or is this all being made up? And this is the problem with this stuff. Worldwide reports. Moving beyond American soil, worldwide reports of the Mothman-like creatures have surfaced, suggesting this may not be an anomaly to rural West Virginia. See, we're cool. Us West Virginians, we got it together. For instance, witnesses claim to have seen a creature resembling Mothman in the midst of UFO sightings, created a tapestry of high strangeness and reaffirming cryptid universal appeal within the world of paranormal and unexplained phenomena. Mothman, okay, his kin. Now, how many of you ever heard of Flatwoods? Okay, this is the Flatwoods monster here. Mothman, a winged entity with storied history in West Virginia, is often grouped with other cryptids of American folklore, such as the Jersey Devil, rumored to have in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, and the Flatwoods Monster, an entity that added to West Virginia's reputation for otherworldly beings. These creatures share common threads of mystery and intrigue, often eluding clear explanations despite efforts of cryptozoologists and enthusiasts. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a couple pictures now, and I want Danny to tell you guys something here. Okay, now this picture here is one of the pictures of the festival. You see how many people are there? I mean, you can't even walk. Okay, now the next one is a bunker. This is where they used to store the dynamite. Okay, this is where Mothman allegedly lived. Now, Danny does a lot of EVP. Y'all know what EVP is? Electronic voice phenomena, where you talk on a tape recorder and you pick up something that comes over the tape recorder. So tell them what happened when you went in there. Huh? Yes, we know that.
Okay. I went into the bunker. That's why I asked you what. Okay. Me and a lady from Uniontown and someone else, there's another somebody. And I was, as you talk on my report, didn't make it hear me. Can anybody hear me? And in this bunker, it's about as big as this, but it's a big dome, and if you say something, it's echoes everywhere. So, anyhow, I asked if anyone could hear me. And I heard this, like a young girl, 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm like, the lady beside me, her name was Maria. She said, help me, please help me. And about probably 30, 40 seconds, it went away. So, I mean, it had nothing to do with the Mothman. So I come out and I start asking questions. Apparently, there was a call in that area, and that young lady was murdered by this call. Spirits in the bunker.
And she,
It's really strange. I know it's a strange story, then it was in the bunker, but it kind of proves that a spirit kind of sticks around, you know what I mean? And why, has anybody tried to talk to this Mothman? I mean, I heard that it makes a screeching type sound. I don't know. It's just strange that that bunker, and it was number 3 bunker, which is one, that's why I was in. I never knew about it. But
so,
pretty strange things hang around strange places. You know?
so really, as you can see, you know, you have something else happening down there. And if you really look at it, there's other things happening, but nobody's saying nothing. You got a lot, when you have one paranormal activity, you got a bunch of it, but nobody wants to say nothing. Yeah, and that's why we actually can't do a lot, because it's like with Bigfoot. I know a lady that got 500 Bigfoot reports, and she won't tell anybody anything about them. I mean, maybe she'd say, you know, Bigfoot was there under the bridge when it rained on Friday night 6 times. We go back when it rained under the bridge on Friday night. But she won't tell us, so, you know, whatever. Okay, this lady here, this is Carolyn Harris. She ran the Mothman Diner. She and Jeff Walmsley's the one who started the Mothman Festival. I ate there a couple times. Really good food. Okay, then you got the same bunker. Then you got the Mothman Festival, and then that stuff out of the museum. And with that, I am done. Anybody got any questions? Yes, ma'am.
If he had eyes, why was it on his chest?
Well, he didn't have a head. He had a head, but it was down in here. Like his head would be down like this into his body. So his eyes looked like they was on his chest. Okay? Big eyes, big red ones. Anybody else?
Any other local towns where it's been?
No.
Gallifrey?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever listened to the interview with that Dernberger or
Denenberger.
what's his name, Parkersburg, and then he recalled?
Yeah, Denenberger, when it landed and he talked to him, and
You gotta listen to
yeah.
that interview with him, like the 90s.
I never listened to it.
You gotta find it. It's impressive.
yeah.
He talks for about 2 hours. And he's a fair-headed guy, but he would disappear for a couple weeks at a time.
Yeah.
They couldn't find him because they were tracking him.
Yeah.
And so he said he was off on that planet. No one could find him for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they brought him down to NASA. I don't know if that's the interview you was listening to.
This was on a radio program.
Oh.
2 nights after it happened.
Yeah.
Parkersburg, West Virginia.
They brought him down to NASA and they interviewed him down there. And I guess the CIA was involved in it. And it's confidential now. You can't get a copy of it. And he allegedly moved to Cleveland. And Ingrid Cole moved to Cleveland too. So there's a problem there. I mean, you know. And Dennis Berger's daughter does a lot of presentations now. She talks about her dad and that. I seen her down in, I don't know where it was, she talked one day. But, you know, like I say, when you have some paranormal activity, you're going to have a lot more. It goes together. And a lot of people, like I say, they can't understand it. And, you know, I do investigations. Danny does investigations. You have local groups up here. Like, you got any ghost groups up here? Got to have. Anyhow, they do investigations. Ohio got more Bigfoot investigators in the whole United States, which is really odd. They never found one. I mean, but it's like when you really start getting into this stuff. I teach a class on cryptozoology down at the college. He's in my class. And we look at all these creatures. People seen them. Where in the hell do they go? Yes, ma'am.
Tesla said that if you're wanting to try to understand the universe, think about it in terms of frequency. What if these cryptids are in a frequency that we can only partially experience?
Well,
just like dogs can hear different
yeah.
tones, maybe we can't see where they're going.
That's why I say I haven't seen any. I'm not on the right frequency.
Yeah.
But I believe what she just said. This whole paranormal field is frequencies and vibrations. It's like this table right here, or whatever this is. It's moving. Actually, it's moving, but we can't see it. But it's actually moving. It's the same with, like she said, these animals and this and that. They may be operating off a different frequency from where they're from. And that's why 5 people, it's like a UFO. I did a UFO investigation where 5 people seen the UFO and 5 people didn't. Okay, well, how can that be? I mean, they're all looking up there and 5 don't see it and 5 see it. Again, frequency. And, you know, I don't really get into that because a lot of people, well, you don't know nothing about frequency. Well, really, I don't, but I mean, I understand that. So, anybody up here ever seen anything weird? Besides me?
Shadow people.
Shadow people? What do you think a shadow person is?
Some sort of evil entity. It was pretty scary. It just came off the wall. Later, I found out that I was staying in a place where a woman practiced witchcraft and committed suicide. Where I was, I was staying there. And a lot of things happened, and I found out later that a lot of weird stuff happened in that area.
Yeah.
But they come up and hover over me. I wasn't drinking. It wasn't pleasant.
Where at?
It was Pennsylvania.
Where at?
Apartment building.
Where at?
Slippery Rock.
What's the name of that?
Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania.
Okay. I gave a couple of talks up at the college. But we had a case in West Virginia where it was right around Christmas, and a policeman called in a UFO report. So I go up there, and this policeman's with about 6 or 7 other policemen. They're all drunk. And guess what? They still got their uniforms on and their guns. So I go up there and go, yeah, I'm an ex-police chief, The thing goes from here and it crosses over here. You should see it. And I'm saying to myself, I'm looking, it's that damn Venus. But I'm not telling them that. Not anybody drunk with a gun. I will not argue with them. You know better than to do that. So I went up and seen the guy, the other cop, 2 days later, and I told him, and he said, I don't know what I'm talking about, this and that. But after that, he said he had shadow people. And he started telling me all about that. And he says, he had a minister coming up, and he wanted me to be there when the minister went in the house and whatever he was going to do. But the minister ran me out. He wouldn't let me go in there with him. So, but yeah, shadow people are around quite a bit too anymore. I think the whole paranormal world's starting to come down. And, it's ridiculous. But again, are we doing, we got the Kern underground thing. What is it doing? It's opening up stuff. It's opening up portals. And, portals here, and people don't believe this and people don't believe that. And I think we're just opening up the stuff for people to see this stuff now. And more people have been seeing paranormal phenomena in the last year than ever before. And, I sit at home sometime.
I would think that with all the more and more cameras that we'd have, we'd actually start getting evidence.
Well,
more clear evidence.
But when you got a camera. Okay, Danny got a picture of Bigfoot. I get a picture of Bigfoot and I show it to you. That ain't no damn Bigfoot. Where'd you get that at? You photoshopped it. Nobody believes it. I mean, you can actually, I think, bring something in here. I could bring Mothman in here, and somebody say, "Oh, he's just dressed up. That's a Halloween costume." Nobody believes it. So half the time, there's no sense even saying anything to anybody, and people don't. I mean, they just keep their mouth shut and go on their merry way. And you're sitting somewhere some night, and like I say, most of the people, my area in West Virginia, and I'm from Uniontown, Pennsylvania, they all know me down there. So I'll be sitting somewhere and I'll say, "Hey, Fred, what happened the other day?" Really? But then again, they won't say nothing to nobody else. They say, because nobody else even listens to what they got to say. You got to have an open mind. And a lot of people don't have open minds. Their minds are closed. It can't be. It can be. We had a girl. She said she found a portal, and she was going to walk into it with a string. Yeah, you're damn mind. I mean, really, come on. I mean, but again, she didn't walk in because I guess she figured she was going to get lost. But we just had a Bigfoot conference in Brownsville, PA, and one of the speakers, there was supposed to be a portal on his land, and I know 3 or 4 people that went there and said when they walked through there, they actually ended up somewhere else. They couldn't believe where they were at. And then they followed the path and they came back out again. So, is there something there? I don't know.
Is there anybody that knows anything about any underground stuff around or heard of anything underground?
There's a Indian burial cave right here in South Belair. Did you ever hear the Demon House? Belair? There's a haunted house in South Belair down here.
Yeah.
Supposedly behind it is an Indian burial cave. And
Well, Indian burial
it's a
cave.
cave, I guess. It has something to do with this house. But the Hetherington family, they rent it out every weekend, the paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
I took a tour of the place about 6 months ago. It's something called the Home. A great big black cat, man. I saw him in my house 3 times, and I don't have a big black cat. I have a little white cat, a red cat. But it scared me, man. It took a week or 2 to get it out of there. The paranormal investigator told me to just
How do you equate an Indian burial with a cave?
something to do with the most paranormal areas on the United States have something to do with Indian black magic. Skinwalker Ranch, there's a bunch of places if you look at
Oh,
it.
yeah.
The Indians had powerful magic, and whenever they practice black magic, there's weird things that happen. Right down here.
They still have powerful magic.
Oh, yeah,
Very powerful.
white too.
I got an opportunity. I'm 75, okay? I'm an old man. And I always said I wanted to go on an Indian reservation. And I'm saying, I'll never get there. I'd like to go there and stay for a couple of days, right? So I wrote 2 books, and I'm writing a 3rd one now, me and my co-writer. And he believes in Venus. His name's Cosmos Ray. He talks to evolutions. He's a PhD. He teaches in Morgantown. So he says to me, he says, "Freddie," he says, "I got invited to a reservation up in Canada. And I told them I was bringing you, and they says, good. So I had to get a passport and that. I can't wait to get up there. I mean, because you talk about Bigfoot, anything you talk about, the Indians have been through it. I wish that we could have an Indian and just Native American and talk to them. I mean, they're really, it's ungodly, the things that they can tell you. But again, we don't want to hear it because they, you know, half of them don't have educations. And I mean, their education is in the Indian land. And I mean, you know, we got to start looking at everybody as a person and listen to what people got to say. We're all the same. We all breathe. We all look at each other. We may cuss each other out every now and then, but we get along. And I think once we all start getting along, then we can become better people. But right now, we can't do that. I mean, it's like right now, coming down here, I heard Russia brought about 6 destroyers down to Cuba. Isn't that odd? When was the last time they did that? In the 60s when they had the crisis down there. So maybe something's going to happen here in the next couple of months. I hope the hell not. But, you know, we just got to do things we shouldn't do, man. If we all get along, it'd be a better thing.
Huh?
You can just run away and go live with Bigfoot.
I'll tell you what, I always said if I could find a good female Bigfoot, I'd marry her. She would keep me warm in the winter and cool in the summer. But I'm going to tell you what, them Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners would be hell. Because we'd have to go get about 52 pigs. You know, can you imagine that?
Imagine cuddling up to that stinky thing.
Oh my God. Don't even tell me. But as long as she takes a shower, I don't care. You know, but no, I mean, like I said, I mean, I think it's out there, but we as people don't believe what we're seeing. Like you say, the frequency thing. And I don't really talk about that because, you know, people don't want to hear frequencies and.
Well, you know how they say kids are more sensitive to things? Maybe they're more in tune to that frequency than we are, you know? Maybe it's that same concept with why they
Well,
can see things.
I think what happens when we're born, okay, we have paranormal abilities, all right? As we get older, we have playmates. How many people have an invisible playmate? Well, they really did. But their mother or dad said, you say something about them, will whip your butt. Don't, you know, you don't have no playmate. And what they do, they take this ability off of us. But some people don't. And these people grow up to be, you know, very psychic and see things and, you know. I mean, I was abducted by a UFO. And he and I actually have 3 hours missing time. And so they told me that they could, I was 4 years old when it happened. And they told me that they, you know, I know everybody in MUFON, I'm the state director. And they said, well, we can take you back. No, you ain't taking me back. If I can't see it with my own eyes, I don't want to believe it. So me and my cat Bang Bang was sitting watching TV one night. And there was on TV was a UFO show. And they had little aliens on it with hoodies. When I seen that hoodie on that alien, I tell you what, I could see him in my bedroom in the whole 9 yards. I tell people that and they say I'm crazy. So you know, but I don't really care. I am crazy. You know, you want to say I'm crazy, I'm crazy. But again, people don't believe it. If it don't affect them, they don't believe it. Then when it affects them, well, why in the hell can't you stop it? Why should we? You're the one that didn't believe it, you stop it, you know? And then you talk to police. Oh my God, they're another. And then when they find out you're a cop, their whole attitude changes. Like where I'm from in West Virginia, they all call me Bigfoot. You know, riding down the road one day, I get a phone call from a guy, Mr. Saluga. When somebody says Mr. Saluga to me, there is a problem. Because everybody calls me everything but Mr. Saluga. So I said, what can I do for you? He says, my wife's hearing things in her head, voices. I said, really? So why the hell are you calling me? He said, well, West Virginia State Police said to call you. You're the only one who can figure this out. So he and I go down there, And I really believe she was trying to get Social Security. But, but she was saying it was the Havana syndrome where, they can actually beam voices in your head if they want to, the government. I mean, MK Ultra. So, anything else, folks?
I got a nephew who was a coal miner. He don't believe in anything. And about 3 years ago, he swears he was coming down from Harrison County, getting off the ship, the sun was coming up, and the Sasquatch walked right in front of him through, and he will swear to it this day. And this, I've known him my whole life. And he don't believe it. Flying saucers, ghosts, nothing. And he came to me and said, Michael, I gotta tell you, I saw Bigfoot, buddy, in Harrison County. It's probably been 3 or 4 years, but so I know one direct witness of Bigfoot here in Ohio.
But there, people in here have seen stuff, or they've heard stuff, but they won't say it. I ain't saying nothing, man. People will think I'm crazy. I like I say, I'm a DUI instructor. So I hear stories like you would not believe. But again, I drink 2 beers. When I go to the bar, I drink 2 beers. That's it. I mean, if I drink 3, the whole bar just shuts up. Hey, oh my God, he drank 3 beers. But I got somebody with me that drives me because I won't drink more than 2. But, you go in there and you start hearing things from people. And then you start talking and then they find out I'm an ex-cop and then they really don't want to talk to me because they think I'm a spy or I'm this, I'm that, and I'm looking for them and hell with it. So, but I mean, like I said, I love talking to people. Everybody got a story.
Do you think there's a shapeshifter here tonight?
Do I what?
Do you think there's a shapeshifter here tonight? Last week when we were here, you were talking, you said you thought there was a shapeshifter in the room. Remember that?
People in the room here?
Yeah, but last week.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There might be an agent in here. Oh yeah. The government, they follow you. Like me, they know me. I'm sitting in a bar, and a bar comes like this, and you have 1, 2, 3 chairs, right? Nobody else in the damn bar. Someone will come and sit right next to me. You sit there, and I read when I'm in a bar. So, it's either, 1 of 2 things, my friend. What do you want? And they start talking about conspiracies and that. And then, we know you, Fred. So, I mean, I know you too now, so I don't really care. I mean, when you get 75 years age, I went through a bunch of stuff when I was, I've seen it, I've experienced, and I've done it. So I don't really care anymore. Whatever happens, happens.
And so what are all the courses you teach then at the college?
Huh?
What are the courses you teach at the college?
I teach cryptozoology and I teach ufology. And then this fall, I'm teaching a conspiracy class, which I will piss quite a bit of people off. I just sent a letter to the FBI under the Freedom of Information Act for information on Sonny Bono of, Sonny and Cher. Okay, Sonny became a congressman and he was with the House Intelligence Committee and he accidentally hit a tree and killed himself, which was totally bullshit.
I grew up in Palm Springs. I
Yeah.
remember when all that hit.
Yeah.
And it was,
He was actually taken out.
right.
So I get a letter back from the FBI yesterday saying, Mr. Saluga, we never heard this name before.
Wow.
They've never heard the name. Can you imagine that? I mean, they got his real name written down,
Yeah.
but they've never heard it. I mean, the government tells you what they want to tell you, and that's it. But it's going to be a good class, so maybe you want to come down and listen to it. The thing is, it's a 5-week class, and it's $25 for 5 weeks. You can't beat that. So, all right, folks, I'll tell you what, we'll see you not next week. We got to celebrate next week. And the week after. All right, thank you. Y'all have a good week and Juneteenth or whatever. Everybody's off that day.